Hey, how's everybody? Sunny out, huh? Sorry about the parking lot. Man, I went out there this morning though, and it was still standing in water, so it'll dry out. Hopefully it's going to stop raining for like enough time to at least mow, right? Like some of us are celebrating that we can't mow, but I hear others saying, they need to. So I don't get too wound up and worked up about that kind of thing. Though, so today I want to continue part 2 in our series, Journey. And what we started last week was we laid some foundations about this journey that we're all on. And the reason I know we're all on a journey is because, we're breathing. So that puts us all kind of in the same boat. We're all on a journey. What I want, though, is I want to do a series on how to enter into life. Like, I feel like everybody's kind of on a journey, but there's a lot of people that really don't know where they're going. And I think that we need to get on the road and get on a path, and that way we can experience everything that life has to offer us. Don't we want everything that life has to offer us? I mean, I don't want to get to the end and go, man, I wasted all of it. I want to make the most out of everything there is. So last week we talked about as we laid the foundation, and this guy named Paul that writes in the New Testament, he said this, that you cannot lay any other foundation than the one that's already laid. That one being Jesus Christ, or Christ meaning Messiah, right? So you can lay no other foundation than Jesus being Messiah. Well, why is that important to us? Well, here's why. Because Messiah comes to rectify and reconcile the world to God. We call that righteousness, right? Jesus made us righteous before God. What does that mean? He gave us right standing with God. The blood of the cross, and I was just reading in Ephesians this morning, and this writer Paul, he was writing to the church of Ephesians, and he was writing to them, and he said, the blood of the cross has given us righteousness before God. Isn't that beautiful? Like we have right standing with God. And you're like, if this or that. No. What did we talk about last week? Any condition I put on it is something that I can do, right? But righteousness with God is not something that I do. It's not something that I achieve. It's not something that I can perform. Jesus made me right with God. Jesus made you right with God, and nothing in all of creation, nothing in heaven, nothing in hell, all of creation, nothing can separate you from God's love. Isn't that great? Like you can't screw this one up. That's a relief to me. I don't know if it is to you, but that's a relief to me that I cannot jack this one up. Because it's not anything that's dependent on me, but this is dependent on me, and that is that I enter into life. Entering into life and having right standing with God are not the same thing. See, to enter into life, I must believe in Jesus. Not believe He's real or believe He exists or even believe He's Messiah. Those are things that are done with the mind. It's more into a commitment. I have to entrust myself to the life and teachings of Jesus. That's the only way I can enter into life, is to believe in Him and to entrust myself to Him. So we talked about this last week. I'm not gonna go through it again, but I want to talk about these two things. Now, we're not gonna spend any more time on being made right with God, okay? You know why? Because you can't do anything about it. Like you can't make yourself more right, and you can't make yourself less right. So because you can't screw this one up, we won't even talk about it. All right? We'll just shift into neutral on that side because God loves us, and there's nothing we can do about that. And that's a good thing, right? So what's this journey about then? This journey is building on the foundations of how to have and how to enter into life. Now, God has shown me some things that I've kind of lived by, and these are things that were extremely obvious once He showed them to me. This is the way I think God works. He doesn't teach us things, but He gives us revelation. And revelation is an opening of our eyes to what already is. Does that make sense? Like revelation is a revealing of what already is. Think about that, because there's a book in the Bible called what? The Revelation, which would be what? A revealing of what is. That's interesting. We'll talk about that sometime. Today, though, the revelation that God has given is that there are certain things that we can do to get on the right path and to grow in and on that path. Today is going to be the simplest one of them all. We're going to start easy if that's okay with everybody. All right? The reason I say this is simple is because you're here. And number one, the first thing that we can do to enter into life, one of the practices and habits that we as enlightened people can do is go to church. Congratulations. You did one. All right? Here's what I found in my life. That nobody makes me go to church anymore. Now, you may not be in that place. Your wife may have had you like you were going or else, right? Or your parent may have said, you're going or else, or whatever happened. You were going to church today. But the thing is, what I found in my life is when I went to church forced. How many of you guys were forced to go to church when you were a kid? Yeah, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, when the doors were open, man, never missed. Sit there, oh, it's killing me. It was horrible and horrendous, and we had Sunday clothes. Anybody have Sunday clothes? Yeah, I had Sunday shoes, and God help me if I got caught wearing my Sunday shoes on any other day, right? You don't wear your Sunday shoes out to play. That's just the way it is. So what I found in my life is that going to church, even though I did not want to be there, was good for me. It was good for me. Now some of you guys are like, man, I hate fighting with my kids. I hate making them go to church. Listen, man, there's nobody can put a parent through hell like I could. I could make everybody in my house miserable if I didn't want to do something. And that's not a good thing. That's just fact. My mom could tell you. But there was a line about going to church that you didn't cross, and I knew that. Because bad things happened if we drew that line, if we stepped across that line. And some of you guys had the same type of parents. Like, this is one thing that we did. So I want to encourage you that if you're a parent and your kid fights and whines and cries and throws down, don't let that be an excuse. Grab that kid, throw them in the car, buckle them in, and kick them out in our children's ministry. Here's why. It's good for you. It's good for you. I didn't have a children's we didn't even know what children's ministry was. There wasn't children's church. You know what you did? You sat on the pew, the wooden hard pew. You sat there, and if you fell asleep, you got this. And you got it right here. And anybody ever been gotten right there? Oh my, it's painful, it's deadly, it hurts so bad. But you don't cry in church. because then you get to go out on the porch. Been on the porch before, and I know to never, ever go on the porch during church. We put a small porch on this place because I know what the porch is, and I know what it's used for. I've been on the porch. My brother, man, my little brother had been on the porch more than anybody I know. Like it was a regular occurrence, which was good because that took some of the heat off of me, right? We didn't have children's church. Look, your kids, man, they've got it made. They don't even know they've got it made, right? Bring your kids to church because it's good. It's good for them. It's good for them. But it's good for you too. When I graduated high school, nobody made me go to church anymore. And so I didn't. Anybody else? Yeah. How many of you guys took that 10 years off, that 12 years off? Like 20 to, 18 to like 30. You don't do it. But something happens when you get to be 30, doesn't it? Because you're like, whoa, wait a second. This ain't working. So I've got this theory that in Jewish culture, 30 is when you became an adult. And so I got this theory as I watch people, man, at about 30 years old, the wheels start coming off. And that's when a lot of people go back to church. And it's not a definite number, but it's in that span. But I found out that in that time that I was out of church, what I thought was freedom definitely wasn't freedom. Like I thought, yeah, nobody's making me do anything anymore. I do what I want to do, right? Yeah. Then you get married. And then you have kids. And then you do nothing you want to do. Church is good for us, though. When I'm out of church, I have no guidance. I tend to go along with the behaviors and customs. Paul uses those words, the behaviors and customs of the world. Like I kind of fall in the path, and then I start thinking, this would be smart. Like, how many of you guys ever started thinking? Like I was thinking that this is the best thing to do. And without that constant closeness, that constant communion, that constant relationship with people who are seeking life on a path, what I found was, man, my decisions and the I was thinkings got me into a ton of trouble, a ton of debt, a ton of mistakes, some things you just can't go back and erase, right? I mean, you're just jacked. What I found was when I was away from the gathering, that's what church means, right? The word church actually means the gathering. And when I was away from the gathering, then I experienced death, hell, torture, torment. The feeling of something that's bigger than me, killing me, taking my life, something that I could not escape from, was a hell. And it came by the daily choices. So I would say that I definitely wasn't on the path to life. Now, here's the thing. You can be in church and experience this. I understand that. But I'm telling you that the odds are way better to go into this hellish lifestyle when you're away from the gathering. I've seen so many people come in and things start going good and they don't think they need the gathering anymore. And they leave the gathering. And then you look at their lives and it's one disaster and one nightmare and one thing after another. And all of a sudden this life of hell begins to consume people again. And it's just all the time. I know that gathering together is a better way to live. I know that the church is a gathering together of the body of Christ. I know that the church is a gathering together of people who are seeking, who are wanting life. Even though we make mistakes, and even though we're not perfect, and even though we act like fools a lot of times, the gathering is still more productive and life-giving than the alternative, than not gathering together. This writer, Paul, he says at this one place, he said, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together. It was a warning, like when you separate out from the group, bad things happen. You're on your own. And listen, you may think that like, well, I'm not really part of the church, or I just show up occasionally and nobody really cares and nobody misses me. I want to tell you guys something. This is so important to me that you understand this. You are missed. When you're not gathered together, you are missed. You're like, well, nobody even knows my name, or nobody even whatever. Let me tell you something. I want a show of hands, and this is going to be hard for a lot of you guys, but because of the nature of who you are. How many of you guys are complete introverts? Like, you don't like meeting new people. You don't like going into a crowd and connecting with people. You don't like inviting people over your house. You don't just walk up to strangers and go, hey man, my name's... That's me. And I'm like, our whole church is basically that way. So like when you walk in and go, I'm introvert, I'm shy, I don't really want to meet people, I don't really know, I don't want to talk to people. Look, everybody's just like you. They don't want to meet you either. I'm like the most introverted person in the world. Like if I never had to talk to anybody I didn't know again, I'd be fine. I don't care. I mean, I can talk to 1,000 people at once like this. I can talk to 10,000 people. I don't care. But meet me in the hallway. That's the way I am, and that's the way a lot of us are. And it's not that we don't care, and it's not that we don't like it. It's everybody is kind of like, you know, a little introverted. That doesn't mean you're not loved and cared for and you're not missed when you're missing. Everybody notices. How many of you guys would love to see every seat in here absolutely full? I mean, just about everybody. What does that mean? That means we want to gather together, right? We like the gathering because it's good for us. In the Acts, in the New Testament, like when you're reading through the Gospels, it's Matthew and Mark and Luke and John, and these are kind of accounts of the life of the ministry of Jesus here on earth. And then it goes into the Acts of the apostles, and what the Acts is like, it's the next, what happened next. And it was as Christianity and as the gathering began to flourish and it began to become, and the world began to change. And like when Messiah came, the world definitely changed, right? And so as this gathering began to take place, we have this story of what happens and what takes place is called Acts. And then after Acts, we get all these letters that these church starters and church planners and leaders in the church began to write to each other, and they were collected, and we've got some of them. But in this letter, it was written by a historian. This historian's name was Luke. So this is like the continuation. Like when you read Luke, you get the continuation of what happened when Luke ends. Okay, that's the Acts. So it's written by the same writer, and I like this. This is This is my favorite, absolute favorite part of the Bible. And it's in Acts chapter 2, and it's in verse 42. And it says this, and this is talking about the gathering. And this wasn't a mandate. This wasn't like, okay, here's how you set up a church. It wasn't like, oh, we've got to do this and this. Oh, we don't have that. We're not a real church. It was like, this is what outsiders observed about this group, that this weird, crazy group that began to follow the teachings of Jesus and the disciples of Jesus. And this is what was said about them. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and the breaking of bread and to prayers. And awe came on every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done among the being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together, and they had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and their belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those that were being saved. The word saved is, again, it means to be made whole or complete. Those who were broken and incomplete were being made whole and complete. And this is a picture of what the body, the gathering, the church looked like. And today, man, I think the church needs to get back to that place. Not that we come in and that it's 3 songs and a lecture, but that when you come in broken, you're put back together. That when you have need, man, there are people that are praying for you and hurting with you. That you're encouraged and built up and shown the pathway to life, not preached down to and talked down to and kicked while you're down. See, we've got to get to a place that where we love and build up and encourage and we edify, we draw together. That's what the gathering looks like. And that's why it's good for us. See, it's good for us to be around people who want to build us up and want to lift us up, people who are interested in our healing, people who are interested in our welfare, people who are for us and not against us. Because don't we get enough of that in other places? Isn't everybody else wanting to kick you in the knee and put you down? Isn't everybody else willing and wanting to take what you have and add it to their pile? It's like every man for himself outside of the gathering, right? But see, in the gathering, it's a place of camaraderie. It's a place of common goals. It's a place where I care about you doing better. Like, I'm not okay with you suffering. I'm not okay with you being hungry. I'm not okay with you hurting. I'm not okay with your downturn in life. I want the very best for you, and everybody sitting next to you wants more for you. And this is not the way it works outside of here. See, outside of here, everybody wants to take away from your life. Outside of here, everybody wants to put you down, kick you while you're down. Secretly, man, they hope you die. No, I'm just kidding. They don't. They might, though. But not us. Not in the gathering. We're for you, not against you. We're for life, not against it. The gathering is a place where we teach. I've taught this series before called House, where everything's critical, and it's about the house. And in the house, we're about teaching. Why? Because God, through His Spirit, gifted teachers. Why would God gift teachers? To teach. Why? How would they know if you don't tell them? I bet every one of you only know what you know. That's a pretty safe bet, right? You only know what you know, don't you? But when we gather, man, there's somebody that knows things I don't know, and I know things that somebody else don't know, and there's teaching. And that's why the gathering's awesome. When we gather in the house in the gathering, man, worship is critical, right? What is worship? Worship is this, and you may want to write this down. I've taught this series too, but worship is this. Worship is focusing everything in your life on the one thing that you believe gives life. What does that mean? Everybody's a worshiper. Everybody. But not everybody worships God, because not everybody truly believes God is the one thing that gives life. But in the house, in the gathering, we are convinced and convicted that there is no life outside of Jesus the Messiah. There is no life outside of God, the creator of all things. And like any other pursuit is going to be in vain. So what do we do when we come together in the house? We worship. We worship like crazy. We sing and we praise and we cry out and we give ourselves and refocus ourselves. And when we miss church, when we miss the gathering, then we miss out on that worship together. And I hear this all the time. Well, I can worship anywhere. Yeah? Do you? Come on, do you? How many times a week are you worshiping? I'm not talking about playing a Christian song on the radio and go, whew, done, check. Because, I mean, let's be honest, man, some of that stuff's more hell than heaven. That's just an opinion, not a fact. Maybe a fact, not an opinion. I don't know. But when we gather in the house, man, we give ourselves to a common focus. You know why those beats are so strong? Like, why we're drawn to that music that's just... like we can get into it, right? Next thing we're tapping our foot, man. We're clapping our hands. And we do that. And we come together. Those beats are strong. And we do that because tonight's gonna be a good. Like, think of all the songs that are out there, man, that we're like driven and like we're all, right? Why? We're worshipers. It's in us. We're drawn to it. But man, when we make that focus and that beat, man, and it's God moving, it's the heartbeat of God. And it's His people gathering together, and they're screaming and they're shouting and they're praising and they're in love with their Creator and they're wanting and crying out for life, and it becomes contagious over us, and that's why we gather. Because I don't do that when I'm by myself. When I'm by myself, I can hear myself sing, and it's bad. It's bad. But when we're here, and it's cranked, man, and you feel it, right? Because if you don't feel it, it's not loud enough. I mean, like I told Chance, look, if it ain't hitting you, then turn it up. Because God is supposed to be experienced, right? We're not supposed to think, we're supposed to feel God, right? That's when we're like, yeah, we're connecting. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together. Come into the house. You know what else the house is? The house is a house of healing. It's a house of healing. All of us are in need of healing. All of us. I don't care how cool you are. And some of us are cool, let's face it. And some of us aren't. And we know the other ones, right? Like, some of us are cool, but even if we're that cool, we still got things in our life that are incomplete, that are broken, that aren't working, right? How many of you have ever had everything all together at one time? See, this don't happen. Because you can get 10 things together. Life is whack-a-mole. Man, you can get them every time you hit one, another one pops up, right? We all need healing. But we were created for relationship. That's why you don't see in the New Testament people going, be healed, and hitting themselves, right? Why? Because God wants my faith and your faith to come together. He wants us to connect in community and healing and care about the well-being of each other. This is what the gathering is about. It's about healing one another. It's about you being broken and incomplete in some part of your life. But maybe this person over here has that peace, that word, that experience that is exactly what you're dealing with. And they can touch you in that place in your life and say, you know what? I know what you're going through. My kids were the same way. I know what you're going through. I suffered the same thing. I know what you're going through. I've been there. I've experienced that. Let me pray for you. Let me love you. Let me encourage you. I care. I hurt because you hurt. And I know the hurt and the pain you're going through. That's why we gather. Because when we're out there on our own, our hurts just get worse and they just get compounded. And who are you going to go to? Your buddy out there? Good luck. My buddies out there, man, we didn't talk about stuff like that. Right? Because you can't have problems out there. Why? Only the strong survive. If you got a problem out there, you're in trouble. It's a pack mentality and they will eat you up. It's a weakness. But our weaknesses become our strengths in the gathering. Because that's the thing that ties us together is our common weaknesses that I can tell you that every one of us have dealt with or dealing with some of the same stuff you're dealing with. In the house, in the gathering, it's a house of prayer. It's always been a house of prayer. What is prayer? What does it mean? Prayer is where we come together and we communicate and we talk to God. We cry out and we shout out and we tell God our problems and we bring Him our needs and we praise and thank Him for everything that He's done. And in the house and in the gathering, we pray for one another. And we encourage and we build up one another. This is what the gathering looks like. This is what the house looks like. And this is why we need to be here. When we miss this, we miss part of our lives that we were created for. Do you understand? So we need to find that place where we fit in. We need to find that place where we connect. We need to find that place where everything is right. We need to find that place that we can call our home. Look, if it's not here, go find it. Go find it and don't stop until you find it. You need to be in the house. You need to be in the gathering. If you're not part of a gathering, the odds of you making it on the journey are just not that good. How many of you guys have missed a week and then missed 2 and then missed 3 and then a month, then 6 months? It just happens, doesn't it? Like 1's no big deal. Then 1 becomes 2 because you're just busy. Then 2 becomes 3 because I'm tired. How many of you guys are tired on Sunday? Yes, I don't know why Sunday. I'm exhausted. It's like the devil says Sunday's going to be tired day. And it's so much harder to get up on Sunday than any other day, and I don't know why. The kids are worse on Sunday, aren't they? I want to kill them guys on Sunday. We're like, man, bring back the altar. You know, it's like, let's have some sacrificing going on. We have to fight through. We have to understand that there is a battle to it. Why? Because it's valuable. It's valuable. What I found in my life is that the most valuable things required work and effort, right? I never had anything valuable that came free and easy. Everything that was valuable had to have work, had to have overcoming. And so we need to pay attention and focus on the gathering. We need to meet together and worship together and pray together and learn together and grow together and be healed together. We've got to come together. And that's what the church is. The church is the gathering. The church is the gathering. Do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. They met daily to the apostles' teachings, to prayer. There were people being healed, and God added to their number daily those who were made whole and complete, saved, those that were given life over death, those that were plucked out of hell. And so as we begin our journeys, the path on the journey, man, whether you feel like it or not, the easiest one is just show up. It's okay if you're having a bad day. Nobody's going to hate you here. Nobody's going to talk to you probably. But there's something that happens when we gather. There's something that's good for our souls when we gather. You should leave here encouraged. You should leave here lifted up. You should leave here edified. This is the gathering. This is the church. And this is like one of the essentials on the journey that makes life work. Got it? All right, let me pray for you. You guys stand with me.